Good afternoon, everyone. We're giving it a couple of seconds just to make sure everyone gets into the presentation. Well, good afternoon again. My name is Federico Rios. I serve as the Senior Vice President here at the Foundation for the Carolinas over our community programs and civic leadership work. We are incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have you all present today for our webinar regarding our spring grant cycle for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Community Foundation. Just briefly, the purpose of today's session is to focus on our grant cycle structure, to talk through our revised application, to talk about the review process, and how to ensure that you all have everything you need to apply to said process. Question we often get is, what is the Foundation for the Carolinas? So the Foundation for the Carolinas inspires philanthropy and empowers individuals to create a better community. On the map on the screen, you'll see our footprint, which is a 13-county region here in the Carolinas. We approach our work from a regional perspective. We are a community foundation. We were established in 1958 with a $3,000 grant from the United Way. And we're known for grant making, but it's important to know that most of our grants are actually donor directed. There are very few grants that come through other pockets of dollars. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Community Foundation specifically serves as the grant-making arm, the primary grant-making arm of the Foundation for the Carolinas. It's one of our regional affiliates. So again, it covers Mecklenburg County, and it is led by a local board of advisors that make all the grant award determinations. This board includes community leaders, private and public sector representation, and local nonprofit leaders. Now let's talk a bit about our grant cycle structure and the changes that have come. So as we approached this process, we wanted to really think through where we've been. And for the last almost decade, we have engaged in granting in the same way in relation to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Community Foundation. While that process has funded some remarkable projects and organizations, we recognize that the needs of our community have changed in very significant ways. So encouraged by the Board of Advisors that I referenced earlier, there was a recognition that it was time to review our practices and see where we could be more responsive to our community. So our goals throughout the process of transforming and changing our granting were first to simplify the application. We wanted to be especially mindful of honing in on factors that are important and how we inform the decision that was being made. We wanted to incorporate principles around trust-based philanthropy. We recognized that there was a need to focus on the contributions of a more just and equitable nonprofit sector, and believe that these revised practices are some of our first steps in doing so. We wanted to deepen relationships with grant recipients. We know that your organization beyond the grant, we wanted to know your organization beyond the grant request and understand the context of your work and who you are, who you're serving, what you're doing, and what do you need to make it happen. We also wanted to prioritize collaboration and partnerships. We know collaboration is difficult, but we know that it's necessary to move the needle on economic mobility specifically. We wanted to also offer resources to inform the application process. This webinar is an example of that. This is the first instance of the foundation doing something like this to give you all information before the granting process begins. Additionally, we've created a toolkit that is being published along with the grant opportunity. Here you'll see the 4 areas of focus for our granting process. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the granting that occurred in years past, over the last decade, you'll see the new title, Cradle to Career. This is actually very similar to the old children, youth, and young adult category. The priorities are the same. It focuses on serving young people from early care and education through college and career readiness. Family stability continues to focus on families with parents or other primary caregivers of children under the age of 18. Social capital connects people to information, resources, or to one another. We know social capital is a key part of economic mobility. We encourage you to review the most recent Chetty update as that ties back to the importance of social capital. Additionally, we have a new area. We know that civic engagement directly intersects with economic opportunity. This area will remain nonpartisan and not support specific political parties, candidates, or policies. So our structure. We're shifting to 2 grant cycles, spring and fall. Both grant cycles are open to all priority areas. Only 1 application per organization will be accepted per grant cycle. Requests are limited to 10% of an organization's annual budget if it's a smaller organization, or a $50,000 max. You can request both either program support or general operating support, which again is a change from previous years where it had to be programmatically aligned. Our awards will be announced in June and December. Now let's walk through a bit of the application. So again, the revised application was designed to focus on economic mobility and questions that address those key components. We again opened up the opportunity to provide support for general operating and program-specific requests. Provides more context to your organization's work. It gives us greater insight into what's happening. And it's less of a narrowing on a specific focus area and more emphasis on how you address economic mobility overall. It also now aligns with the newly in place rubric. Sorry, I'm navigating multiple screens here. So there is some of the key changes or things that we would really want you honed in on is an alignment with the opportunity compass. So this is looking at that work at the indicator level and not solely at the category that you fit in as it was previously structured. We are also looking at the population you are serving in a new way in that we want to know more about who your work serves. So we've shifted away from demographics and offer a narrative format for that piece. In relation to financial information, only your organization's annual operating budget with a narrative description of how you will allocate dollars is required. Additionally, we've changed how we collect demographic information in that we've expanded to match U.S. Census selections and introduced a preferred not to disclose field. So within the application summary, your contact and tax status must be shared. Nonprofits need to be a 501c3 publicly supported charity and have at least 3 unrelated board members. If you require a fiscal sponsor, that will be indicated in this section. You will provide an organizational overview, which focuses on your mission and core services or program. We ask that you tell us more about your leadership model and how decisions are made. Financial information will be requested here. Within the context of the grant request, we want specifics on how the dollars that you are requesting will be used, either for program or general operating support. And we hope that you would share more about your partnerships and collaborations and your plan for sustaining the work beyond the initial grant period. Intended audiences and desired outcomes, we're really looking for who you are serving and how you're evaluating, how you yourself are evaluating the impact or progress you are making amongst those individuals you are serving. As we speak to the rubric, there's again a recognition that we had not implemented this in years past, so this is new. The application is in its entirety structured around the rubric. There are 4 areas of focus, 4 criteria that we are looking for here. We are looking for organizational leadership, your organization's evaluation progress, your evaluation process, collaboration or partnership, and most importantly, overall alignment and description. Within overall alignment and description, this component has the greatest weight. We really encourage applicants to consider if or how their work aligns with the priority areas and addresses economic mobility. Applications that do not score well on this section are unlikely to be competitive and progress through the review phases. In regards to organizational leadership, this component assesses how your organization's work is informed by the communities that you serve across all leadership levels from board to staff, and to what extent individuals with lived experience have pathways to lead, inform, or influence your work. In regards to evaluation process, this component assesses to what extent your organization describes your intended audiences and what your desired outcomes are of your work. We want to understand how to measure progress towards these outcomes and how you evaluate your impact. Within the context of collaboration and partnership, this component is designed to evaluate if or how your organization leverages collaborations or partnerships to improve participant outcomes and whether these relationships inform your work. CMCF only accepts applications through our online grant center. While we have published a sample copy of the application ahead of the grant cycle, you may not apply via email. Applications submitted through the online grant center are the only applications that will be reviewed. Within our grant guidance, you'll see that we provide an in-depth overview of the priority areas, including links to additional resources to learn more about areas of focus. We also provide a digital toolkit, which includes a copy of the application, the rubric, and answers to frequently asked questions. And we also include the opportunity compass, which if you haven't utilized the compass before, we encourage you to explore the tool and learn more about leading on opportunity at the address on this page. In regards to the application process, throughout the application window or time period, you can manage your application online. You can add a collaborator or someone to help complete the application. You can control what sections they have access to. You can import responses from previous applications, but that's only for questions that exist in the current application. So again, with this transition, there may be some questions that you have not answered in the past that you would have to answer this time. We do expect you to work at your own pace. Progress is saved as you work on the application. It does not need to be completed and submitted in one setting. The application dashboard tracks your status to completion. All sections need to be 100% complete before you can submit your application. What makes an application competitive? There are a few areas that our review process is designed to really deeply emphasize. So one, a strong stated alignment to the focus areas. We really want you to be specific in how your work addresses economic mobility. Does your work address any of the key indicators that are identified in the opportunity compass? If not, what has your organization identified as important for economic mobility? Two, we're looking for clear descriptions of your work, including your target audience. What do you do? How do you do it? And how is it reaching who you intend? Three, we're looking for a thoughtful evaluation methodology. How is your organization measuring success for you and those that you serve? How does your evaluation methods measure progress? Fourth and lastly, what are your established collaborations or partnerships? What relationships have you built to improve outcomes? How do you learn from other organizations in the community in order to inform your work? Additional things that we consider. So the extras can make a difference in our review process. Have you included all of your attachments? This might be a list of your board members or a copy of your annual operating budget. Have you requested an amount appropriate for your organization? Is it 10% of your annual operating budget if you're a smaller organization? Did you list a request that exceeds $50,000? Again, $50,000 being the cap of any request. Consider alignment to your organization's operations or a specific program when applying. Spring grants are June 2025 to June 2026, and fall grants are December 2025 to December 2026. Apply for the cycle that best aligns with your proposed activities. What happens after you apply? We recognize that it seems like decisions can take a long time to get to you. Here's an overview of our process after an application is submitted. In April, our staff verifies each organization's eligibility to receive grant dollars. Are you a 501c3? Are you a church, government entity, or educational institution? If you are a nonprofit, do you have at least 3 unrelated board members? In May, our staff review all applications based on the rubric criteria. Applications with the overall highest scores will be reviewed by the Board of Advisors. Final decisions, including award amounts, are made by advisory board members. In June, decisions will be announced to applicants via email. All applicants will receive summarized copies of their rubric scores. This, again, is something we have not done before, and it is our effort to deepen the relationship with our nonprofit partners. It will take time for our team to compile this information, and we expect you to receive it via email in July. The application opens on Monday, March 10th, and closes on Friday, April 18th at noon. Our system cannot accept late submissions. Please submit your application before the deadline. Decisions for this cycle will be announced via email in June of 2025. If you have specific questions about the application or the process, please contact myself at the email listed here or my colleague Nicole Fote, whose email is also listed here. While we cannot provide one-on-one application consultation, we are available to answer questions. With that, we'll move on to Q&A. We have 2 questions that have already been submitted, and then I will ask Nicole to send me any questions that she has, and I have some already listed. So, first question, can I receive more than 1 grant per year? No. If your organization receives a grant in the spring cycle, you may not reapply for the fall grant cycle. You'd have to come back in the following year. If you serve as a fiscal sponsor, can you yourself apply for a grant? Yes, you can. Again, this webinar, let me pause here. This webinar is recorded. So if you or another organization if another organization that you know of was not able to attend or a colleague was not able to attend, they can access this material again through our webpage in a few days. We're no longer asking for a letter of support from our partners, but you will need to still identify who they are. Yes, grants can be used for capacity building as part of general operating support, either to hire staff or to purchase technology. Partial funding is possible. So you may make a request of $50,000, and there is the possibility that the advisory board would choose to only give you a portion of your request, whatever that request may be. It doesn't have to solely be at the $50,000 range. Grants are not renewable. You must reapply again in 2026. If you have any other questions, please submit them in the chat. Do we have an applicant-grantee ratio from previous grant cycles? On average, and last year was a bit of an outlier in that we had a bigger volume. I would say anywhere from 25 to 30 organizations are selected out of a pool of as many as 100 to 110 organizations. Next person shared it would be very helpful to see the rubric and feedback from the application we submitted last year. There was no rubric or feedback last year. This is the first time that we've implemented the rubric for this grant. Um, so going into next year, you would be going into this cycle, you would be able to receive that information, but we have not done this in previous years. We do the next question, can you share what the average award is or expected to be? We do not have insight into what an average award is. Those vary significantly based on requests, based on what the advisory board chooses to do per individual application. No, to be eligible, an organization does not have to have a certain size budget or maximum. You can be a small, more grassroots organization. You can be a larger organization. This is open to all types of organizations here in Mecklenburg County, which was the next question. Are grants only available for Mecklenburg County? It's only available for projects or programs that are doing work in Mecklenburg County and specific to support work that is of Mecklenburg County. The rubric you will see in the toolkit, so it will go into greater detail there. So I know there's a couple of questions related to the rubric. Again, the most important is alignment. You want to make sure that this speaks to the work that you are doing. So as you review the rubric, please hone in on that area specifically. Are the grants only for program or operating expenses, or can it be for a combination of both? In the instance where you would desire for both, I would, and this isn't a hard and fast rule, but I would anticipate that it would probably be best to ask for operating expenses and say that it will benefit programs. How can we obtain guidance on the most attractive or previously successful grant application approach? We don't have a record of prior award recipients that we could share because, again, we've changed the grant process this year and we've included a whole new category. So I don't have anything that would speak to the breadth and depth of what it is we're doing currently. But again, as we went through in the presentation, we'd strongly suggest you look at the rubric and the Q&A that will be included in the toolkit. That will offer you insight into what we believe is a strong application. Again, you can go back to this video where I documented the things that stand out in applications that have the potential to be funded. If a program was funded last year, is it ideal to request funding for a different program this year or the same program likely to be funded? It's really your choice to either apply for a program or operating expenses, what's already been funded or what has not. I can't advise you either way. I can't say that this year you're going to get the same response you got last year. So when we talk about lived experience, there's a question around defining lived experience. We want individuals that are within leadership, and as you think about your work, that you're constantly conferring with, working with, that best understand the work that you're doing. If you're serving a population, we want to know that you are in constant communication with said population and understanding the challenges that they face and giving their voice a level of importance as you design your programming or your operations. So great question. Again, do you give feedback when an app is declined? The history of this organization is that we have not. We're allowing that time between June and July for us to give you the rubric score and some aggregated information from the advisory board members that reviewed these applications so that you better understand their sentiment towards your application and can address that in future applications, not just for the CMCF grant opportunity, but for other grant opportunities that exist beyond that. When we say unrelated board members, the question was, what are unrelated board members? Literally individuals that do not have blood relation. So the expectation is for a nonprofit to maintain a 501c3 status, you have to have 3 board members that do not have a familial relation. There is no benefit or priority granted to applications that seek programmatic funding over operating funding. Both are on equal standing. There is not a limit to consecutive years that an organization can receive a grant. You just cannot receive a grant multiple times in one year. So with that, it looks like I'm done on questions. I apologize if there was any that I did not capture. Um, Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for taking us up on this opportunity to apply for this grant. We are really excited to receive these applications and to again deepen our relationships with our nonprofit partners here in the community. The Foundation for the Carolinas strives to serve as a good partner to you all as you do your work. And again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Nicole Fote. We are excited about this opportunity and look forward to reviewing your applications. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.